Mississippi State 41, Southern Miss 20. The final score here from Davis Wade Stadium. One of the last ball games of the year for Mississippi State as they're closing in on the end of the season here in 2023. And the Bulldogs get a win. They put themselves in position to make a bowl game. Whether or not they do that, we'll see next week. But it was important to get this victory if you're a Mississippi State fan, and it was not pretty. And that's kind of been the case for the season for Mississippi State. They're just scrapping to find wins here. It is what it is, and we knew this was going to be a little muddy here today. Will Rogers was returning, and it was going to be tough to imagine him being 100% and being ready to go and playing at his best in this ball game when you consider the fact he's been out for over a month. This is kind of a tough deal to get back in it and be playing at your best. So, he struggled a little bit, but this offense is so difficult right now. Mississippi State just doesn't have a lot of juice in this offense. The plays take a long time to develop. They're not great plays as it is. And Will Rogers had a lot of drops in this game, too. He was 12 of 27, 144 yards, 2 touchdowns, one of the lowest completion percentages I can remember for Will Rogers. And it wasn't all his fault. There's going to be a lot of people that blame him for that, but I remember offhand 4 or 5 drops from Mississippi State in this game where the ball was there and the play was there to be made. Couldn't make the play. It just looks like this team right now just doesn't have a lot of confidence and they don't have a lot of juice in it. We saw it sparingly throughout the game, but for the most part, it just looked like a team that was kind of dejected, a team that doesn't really know its identity, and that's kind of what we've seen from this team for most of the season. All they got to do next week is win one time against Ole Miss, and that's you come out and you play one great game of football to end the season and get yourself in a bowl game and win that Egg Bowl trophy again. It's going to be very tough, and we'll get more into that one as we go throughout this conversation here. I just thought Southern Miss wanted this game a little more than Mississippi State. At the end of the day, the talent gap was just too huge, and Mississippi State was able to win. And State, I thought, played very hard there in the final few minutes. But you struggled coming out of the gates. It was 7-0 after the first possession for Southern Miss. You give up the big catch to Caston, the wide receiver from Southern Miss, who made 2 really big catches. And you give up the touchdown. Frank Gore was wide open out of the backfield. And Mississippi State was only able to get 3 points in the first quarter. I think there was like 8 or 9 possessions in the first quarter just dragging along. Kyle Ferry was the MVP for me in this ballgame. He kept Mississippi State afloat. The freshman had 4 field goals, and that was basically allowing Mississippi State to push that lead out to the point where, Southern Miss's run there in the fourth quarter, it wasn't enough. And I give Kyle Ferry a lot of the credit. He had 12 points, 15 points, I guess, by himself in this ball game with the touchdowns added in, the extra points there. So a hat tip to Ferry. Without him, this might have gone a lot differently for Mississippi State. But he was able to kind of keep them afloat, allow them to push the lead out a little bit. They got the lead up to, 23-7 maybe, something like that, 26-7. If I remember correctly. Southern Miss was able to climb back in the ball game. The poor tackling from Mississippi State's defense allowed Caston to break off a 44-yard run, I think, for a touchdown. State comes down, kicks a field goal to push it back out, and then he gets a 98-yard kick return, and suddenly it's a 26-20 game. But State really kind of put the gas pedal down after that. They came out and had a nice offensive drive, probably their best offensive drive of the game, and they ran the football. Seth Davis had a nice 18 or so yard gain to get him to midfield, and then Jeffrey Pittman broke off the 59-yard run for the touchdown that put the game away. And how about Jet Johnson on that next drive defensively to really seal it? Interception, is going down for a tackle. He sees Marcus Banks breaking, and Jet Johnson just tosses it to him, and he runs it in. 69 yards for a touchdown. That play really exemplified Jet Johnson, his career at Mississippi State. I mean, people have joked about him and maybe not having the best ability, but there's been no one, I think, in Mississippi State history that has been as consistent and has brought it as much as he has and has played as hard as he has. And the same goes for Buki Watson, who's been right there with him. Buki a little more talented than Jet, but those two have been the heart and soul of Mississippi State football now for about 3 or 4 years. and this year going to be 1-2 probably in the league for the second straight year in tackles. Buki had 21 tackles in this game, unbelievable. 21 tackles, had a sack and a half, I think, and a forced fumble. Jet had 18 tackles, a couple of tackles for loss, had the interception. Those two are carrying Mississippi State's defense. It has been a rough year on the defensive side of the ball for Mississippi State, and this game didn't look great, but it's so weird about this defense. The total yardage is not really indicative of how they've struggled at times this year. And I'll say this, I thought they played okay in this ball game. I thought for the most part they controlled the game defensively. They had a couple of bad possessions. They had the first possession and then the touchdown to Cass and bad tackling. But 246 yards, still not that bad. This defense is not the worst in the league by any means. They just haven't had the year that they wanted to have. But I give a lot of credit to Jet Johnson and Buki Watson for allowing this defense to stay above water at least, and at least get off the field some and give their team a chance, because the secondary's been really bad. The front has struggled this year, and injuries have been a large part of that too. But Buki and Jet have been incredible all year. 39 tackles today between them. That's just insane. State with 382 yards of offense. Offense just was not very good. Passing was a big part of that. Running the football, they had some good moments. They averaged 5 yards a rush. At one point, it was 3 yards a rush. The Pittman run kind of offsets that a little bit, but Jaquavius Marks is just not healthy. I really wish he would have had a fully healthy season to see what he would have done this year. 12 carries in the game for 34 yards. He just never looked right out there. Jeffrey Pittman and Seth Davis, two good games in a row for those guys. 10 carries, 98 yards for Pittman with a touchdown. 11 for 49 for Davis. I thought we saw some good things for Zavion Thomas in the game as well. Penalties for both teams were bad. 6 for 65 for the Bulldogs, 6 for 66 for Southern Miss. We saw some extracurricular stuff. State has got to fix that going into next week's game. They got to play sound against Ole Miss to have a chance. So, all things considered, Mississippi State covers in this game. They were 18-point favorites at game time. They win by 21. It wasn't pretty, but the Bulldogs are 5-6 heading into the Egg Bowl, and that's exactly where you wanted to be coming into this week. You wanted to win this game and give yourself an opportunity. All you can ask is for a chance going in that game. Now, there's no way I'm predicting Mississippi State to win the Egg Bowl, but we've seen some crazy things in this game over the years, and having an opportunity to go to a bowl game with this game on the line, you just never know. I think Ole Miss has a much more stable situation on the offensive side of the ball, obviously. Very explosive offense. It's a scary offense for Mississippi State to face next week, but they've got to play well, and hopefully this opportunity to get out there and knock some rust off is going to be big for Will Rogers. I think he obviously gives you the best chance to win next week, and we'll see about Jaquavius Marks if he's able to get healthy and play and help the team next week. But there's so many guys on this roster from Mississippi that are going to want to win this ball game. And I'm very interested to see how they come out in that game and play. And if they come out and they have a good game plan offensively, there's not a whole lot of trust that anybody has in Kevin Barbay right now offensively, but he's got to put together a great game plan that's going to give them a chance to beat Ole Miss. And if you win that game somehow, you got the egg for another season, and you got a bowl game for a 14th straight year. That just doesn't happen. Only 3 teams in the SEC right now have gone 13 or more, with Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi State. Texas A&M dropped off last year. So Mississippi State has a chance to continue that incredible bowl streak that has never been done here before, and it's one of the longest streaks currently in the SEC. So this is a very big game for Mississippi State and for the future of the program to take a step forward going into the offseason. You got a coaching hire that's about to be made with Zach Arnett getting fired earlier this week. And, obviously that created a lot of distractions this week. We'll see with a week under its belt, and with Greg Knox as interim head coach, we'll see how that goes. By the way, Greg Knox, just a phenomenal person. I've loved Greg Knox for several years, having covered him whenever Dan Mullen was here first, and I thought he handled the situation in 2017 very well. It was obvious he was going to follow Dan Mullen to Florida based on some rumblings behind the scenes. He stayed back, did his job for Mississippi State, and led the Bulldogs to a bowl win in the TaxSlayer Bowl. And this year gets brought back, a place that he said he considers home. He considers this place family. His kids wanted to be back in Starkville, go to Starkville High School and play for the Jackets. His family loves it at Mississippi State, and you can tell it with what he says and how he says it. And, you know, I thought the post-game today was a perfect example of how much it means for him to coach at Mississippi State. He's been here now for 10 years. He's been a Mississippi State coach. And this is the second game that he's been an interim head coach for the Bulldogs, and he just carries himself so well. I thought he did a great job post-game just talking about what this game means to him to get this win, and what this game coming up against Ole Miss means to him as well. It means a lot to him, just like it does a lot of these players in the state. They know how important this game is for people here in Mississippi. So, you know, I'm expecting them to come out and play hard. They might get beat by 30, I don't know. But I do think this team will have something to play for on Thursday night on Thanksgiving against Ole Miss. So that's what's coming up, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. We're going to have a lot of coverage this week on that ball game, and we'll see what happens. The Bulldogs are going to have their chance to get that 6th win, and you know, it's going to be an important ball game for the program moving forward. And I think it's an important game for Ole Miss too. They're trying to get to 10 wins in the regular season, which is something that doesn't come often for Mississippi State or Ole Miss. So should be a fun one coming up on Thursday night. Make sure you're tuned in all week on 247 Sports. Still got coaching search news coming out. We got coverage of the game coming up this week. We got basketball coverage. Basketball's full swing right now. Recruiting, things like that. So come check us out. Subscribe to this YouTube channel too if you don't mind. I'd really appreciate that, the support that you have there, and I appreciate all you guys that are already supporting this. That means a lot to me. We'll have a Talking Dogs probably on Monday night. I'll talk to you guys again there. We'll have a live chat, and should be a good time. So hope you guys have a great week of Thanksgiving coming up. Enjoy your week. Enjoy the Egg Bowl on Thursday. Should be a lot of fun. We'll be there for it once again. But I appreciate you guys. It's been Robbie Falk. I'm signing out. Catch you down the road.